Hi friends, it's Terry Gaines. I'm going to share a fun card using the What's Cookin' Bundle. It's the What's Cookin' stamp set and the coordinating dies. If you purchase them together, you have a 10% savings. And I fell in love with this bundle. I like to bake, and for some reason this just drew my attention. But it is a little overwhelming maybe because there's a lot of small pieces. So I'm going to share a fun card that I created using this bundle. So I want to share first a couple tips or ways of cutting out the images. So first you could stamp the image and then place the die over the image around the outline there and run it through your die cutting machine. Or you can cut out the images blank, and that's how I like to do it. As you can see, I've stamped lots of extra images. And what I like to do is stamp several of them, and then I just keep them with my stamp set. Then if I want to create a card using some of those images, I already have it all set up. So what I do is I use my Stamparatus, put a grid paper down, ink up my stamp, and stamp it on the grid paper. Then I take the outline or the mask part of the image that I cut out, lay it over this image. With the Stamparatus, you're going to get two magnets that are stored on the bottom. I use painter's tape on mine to create a couple like handles to pick them up. They're very strong, keep them apart from each other. Then I can place this right in that opening. You can take your ink pad, and I might be out of camera view, but I'm just tapping the ink on the stamp. Then I can come down and stamp my image. I can pop it out, put a new one in, and keep stamping, and then I will get all my images. So you have two ways of doing that, or you could stamp the image and free cut if you don't have the dies. So I'm going to share some of the prep work for this card before I start the assembly. So I have all my images stamped and cut out, and why don't I share this concept right here too. So when you have a sentiment and you want to put it on the top of your card or tuck it underneath a layer. An idea is to stamp it towards the edge of your scrap paper. I like using the everyday label punch. Line it up. My paper wasn't quite long enough to hold on to it very well, but I think you'll get the concept here. Punch it out. So now I've created a label that I can tuck under. So I've got that done ahead of time. We just close my ink pad over here, and that way don't get anything dirty. So now what I want to do is take this designer series paper, and it is 5 inches by 1 3/4. I am using a piece of designer series paper that's in the Pattern Party 12 by 12 designer series packet. This is one of the host reward options. So if you place an order of $150 or more, or you do a book party or a workshop, you can pick out this paper. You get 48 sheets. They're 12 by 12 for each of these 12 designs. And there's a fun pattern on one side, and the other side of this paper is all black and white. And actually so versatile. Such a fun designer series paper packet to have. I'm using this piece right here. And this paper is, as I mentioned, 5 by 1 3/4. It needs to be cut on a diagonal. So it's going to be cut from, if you look at it this way, the top left corner to the bottom right. And I'm going to place it in the paper trimmer. So you put those points right in the opening with the trimmer. Oops, let's see, I'll just do it this way. It always goes smoother when you are not recording your project. So then I'm going to go and cut that. So now I actually get 2. I only need 1 for the project. I'm going to set that aside. The other prep work is cutting your cardstock. I'm using Real Red for a card base. That is 5.5 by 4 1/4. I'm using another layer, and I'm using basic black. This is 5 1/4 by 4. I also have a piece of black cardstock that is 10.5 by 1 3/4, and it's scored at 4 1/4. I prepped this by running it through a folder. This is the Tasteful Textile 3D folder. I have it folded, placed it in my folder, run it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and texturized that piece. I have a Whisper White that is 5 by 3 3/4, also ran through the folder. And I need a strip of basic white. I'm using a 1 inch by 3 3/4. So those are all the pieces that we need. So now we can start the assembly. I actually am going to bring in my Stamparatus. I am going to use the Stamparatus for the corner. I like using the Stamparatus or a Simply Scoring to help do the layering. So the first layer I'm going to assemble is taking this diagonally cut piece of Designer Series paper and applying it to the top with the fold on the left. So I can place this right in my Stamparatus, and I'm actually going to take the foam out of here because I want it a little bit lower so I can get a surface in the corner. This Simply Scoring works great too. The other thing I should have grabbed, and maybe I have one in arm's reach, is the silicone craft pad. I do have one in arm's reach. That's going to be perfect for putting adhesive on a piece of paper that is smaller than your adhesive, your tape runner. So this craft pad works great. Oops, got a little bit running there. And what happens is it doesn't get that stickiness. It stays on there. It kind of rolls back onto the paper. And as I mentioned, it goes smoother when the video camera is not on record, but I'm going to keep going. My videos are unedited. They most of the time contain bloopers, misspoken words, and so forth. But hopefully you can still follow along on how I'm creating the project. So this diagonal edge is going to go up on that top. So that allows me to run this until I hit the corner and place that down. And that allows me to get those two pieces lined up fairly well. Now what I want to do is adhere these two layers together. And I'm going to just keep my Stamparatus platform right here and put some adhesive on this. This white cardstock is going to be centered on the basic black. Now there's no top or bottom here, but what I'm going to do is have the fold on this side, and I'm going to adhere this to the bottom of this layer. So I'm going to put my adhesive on the back, and if I didn't make it clear, the reason I'm doing this is because you've got a corner here. It allows me to get these bottom edges straight and this end straight. So I can bring that over, bring that down, and that just helps me with the alignment of assembling that portion of the card. And now this is going to be attached to the real red, and the reason is I just wanted a pop of the color to pop out. You could put any color for your cardstock that coordinated with the colors you chose for your stamped images. So this is cut 1/4 inch larger, so we got a 1/8 inch border on all sides. Now what I'm going to do is take this image that's got the sentiment, and I could have attached this before the real red or before the actually basic black, but I want that right there in the corner like so. Then I'm going to take the mixing bowl and I'm going to place that here, and I'm using that as an eyeball for my placement. Then I'm going to take the salt and pepper shaker and my take your pick tool to help get the backings off. I put regular dimensionals on the back of that, and then I have mini dimensionals on these. So I'm going to attach those, and it looks like I've got a tablecloth, and I have these items on the table, and the spoon is going to go on last. And I cut a mini dimensional in half right there just to get a little bit of support underneath that part of the spoon. And there we have a spoon sitting there. So that all of these items look like they're sitting on the table. And I have one more piece, is the Whisper White that I have cut at 4 3/4 by 1. You can cut this larger. It can be as large as 1 1/2 by 5 1/4. But that's for the inside. You can stamp a sentiment, or you can use this to sign your card. But this is the card. So it looks like all your images are on the table. You got a tablecloth, and then you can sign the card. So sending you a dash of kindness and a spoonful of love. So how fun would that card be to make? If you want to add some embellishments, a fun way to do that, I have some red rhinestones. It's just put a few in the corner to just dress up the corner of your tablecloth. And then you have some embellishments. I'm going to share another card that I made. The first one I made was using the Pansy Designer Series paper, the Pansy Patch, I believe it's called, or Pansy Petal. The Pansy Designer Series paper has a floral print on one side, and the other side it has background, and 3 of these background pieces are gingham, so you could use those for tablecloths. And this actually is a fold that's called a Dutch door technique. And I also have another card that I just did another video on that is the technique of a Dutch door, and I'm using the Inspired Thoughts bundle and the Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper. This card is the Fun Fold card for using my June host code. If you use my June host code and place a $30 order, you will get the supplies for this card, the supplies for the mini card. You assemble those per a video I email you. You do need to use your own stamps and ink, but I have everything else cut out, and that is one of my thank you gifts. I hope you enjoyed this project. And if you found me via YouTube, there's a direct link to my blog post where you'll find the supply list measurements for this project. Thanks for stopping by. I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take care and happy creating.